This is the Yanks Go Yard podcast with Adam Weinrib and Thomas Carinante.
Welcome on into the Yanks Go Yard podcast on this beautiful Monday, the only podcast that gets you Bronx bombed on a Monday afternoon. I'm Adam Weinrib alongside Thomas Carinante. We appreciate you joining us. The Yankees, they're the worst. They're one of the worst teams. They don't hit. They don't play well. They also just took a 3-game series from the AL West leading dominant offense Texas Rangers. Nobody hits like the Rangers in 2023. They hit like the 1936 Yankees. They're putting up murderers row numbers. And the Yankees just beat them 2 out of 3. And the only starting pitcher who couldn't really hold them down was Garrett Cole, who gave up 9 hits in 4 2/3 innings. They still won that baseball game. Luis Severino got him. Pretty weird. Pretty weird that Luis Severino got him. Clarke Schmidt got him. Clarke Schmidt's pretty good lately. We're going to talk about Clarke Schmidt. The Yankees literally never win when he starts, which is a problem. Spoiler alert. But Clarke Schmidt's been very good lately. And we believe in him, I guess, a little bit. But weekend, big takeaways from the weekend. Like, we're not sure. Like, I'm sort of in a vortex here. Do I focus on the fact that they kind of saved their season by beating the Texas Rangers 2 out of 3, and they had maybe the most exciting singular game of the year yesterday? Or do I focus on the fact that the team lied about Aaron Judge again, and then there's no timetable for his recovery, and that there's like no way to even parse it? Like, well, it was kind of a lie, it was a little bit of a fudge, truth cover up. But no, I mean, they lied. They lied about Aaron Judge. They said he had an injury. He had a different injury. They said he had a couple injuries, actually. Like one damaged ligament. Then they said actually there was a second one, and he was like, I tore it in half. So like, where's my focus go? Or maybe we focus on Josh Donaldson, the fact that he got benched for the entire weekend, and then they took a series from the best team in the AL West. I don't know. That's pretty interesting. Or maybe we focus on Billy McKinney, who every time I tweet something about like, Billy McKinney versus Aaron Hicks, like, are we sure Yankees really made out with the raw deal here? Maybe the Orioles just got better and let the Yankees get better too. I always tweet something like that, and I worry, well, then McKinney's going to start struggling as soon as I tweet that. But you know what? Not really. 1-0 win on Saturday, thanks exclusively to him going yard. And the Yankees do go yard sometimes, not often enough. We'll talk about all those things and more. You can find us live on YouTube now. Thanks for joining us. Also on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Joining me as always with a betting offer, as long as you're in a legal betting state. Thomas Carinante, welcome to the show.
Hey, everybody. What's up, Adam? I want to talk to all Yankee fans here. Also, I don't know if the haters are not tuning in today, so I'll address this one just the Yankees fans. We have an offer from Caesars Sportsbook. You're not going to want to miss this one, especially if you are signing up for the first time on this app or this website. Please be sure to use this. New customers on Caesars get their first bet covered by Caesars up to $1,250. All you have to do is use the code YGYFULL at sign up. If you sign up using that code, again, it's YGYFULL, you will not only have your first bet fully insured, but you will be directly supporting the podcast. And you like us, especially on Mondays. You guys definitely like us on Mondays. So if you haven't signed up for Caesars Sportsbook, head on over there, join with our code YGYFULL, and drop that first bet. This offer is only available for new customers who are 21 and older and physically present in legal gambling states. Please, please, please remember to always gamble responsibly. Check the episode description for the full terms of the offer. Would have been interesting if you did that max bet on any of these Yankee games over this weekend, because you had Saturday, a 1-0 win for the Yankees, which was bizarre. I followed that one on my phone because I was away for the weekend. And then you have the 8th inning comeback yesterday. And Friday's loss was as infuriating as it gets. And yeah, it's weird. I feel like we're not even going to be talking about the series win today. I feel like we're just going to be talking about other stuff because this is how it works.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what do you want to have fun or not? We can have fun a little bit with the series win first. Like, you might as well. I didn't know you were legally allowed to win a 1-0 game against this team, the Texas. I didn't know the Yankees were allowed to win a 1-0 game ever. First and second, nobody out in the 8th and 9th for Texas. They can't get it done against the Yankees bullpen that everybody keeps saying it has the best bullpen ERA in baseball, and that's true. But then you watch Michael King blow several games in a row over that 1 week span against the White Sox and Red Sox, and you're like, okay, so who cares? Like, who cares how good the ERA is if you're going to blow every small lead you bring into the 8th inning? But they hold on tight for dear life on Saturday, and I was also away for the weekend. I was on a ranch watching my friends get married. Love them very much, but no service on that ranch. And so I went onto the ranch at like 2 p.m. Pacific, a little later than that, and it was 1-0 in the bottom of the 6th. When I got off that ranch past midnight, the app loaded, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me. There's no, like, it must have loaded. You know that thing when the MLB app loads outdated data sometimes, and it's telling you that it's like 1-0 in the 6th, and you're like, no, I don't give a shit. That was hours ago. What's the final score? And then I saw that it was final, and I was like, that just can't be. Like, I assumed they were either going to win 3-2 or lose 4-1. There was no in between. Somehow they win that game 1-0. Was it really Severino's best start of the year? I mean, it did kind of look like Texas was swinging and missing at some pitches over the heart of the plate. I preferred his start against San Diego, even though the line might not add up quite so. The stuff just popped more. It is what it is, but I'm not going to quibble with 6 shutout innings against the Texas Rangers. Again, this team is bludgeoning people, and Clarke Schmidt and Severino held them down, and then they managed to piece stuff together against Garrett Cole. But Jimmy Cordero and Nick Ramirez and even Cole himself, there's a runner on third with 1 out, already down 3-0. He wriggled out of that. They did a fantastic job keeping it close yesterday. Just 1 more in-play runs at any point from the Texas Rangers, and they lose that game. There are a million 2-out rallies. The Yankees didn't surrender a run in any of those. It allowed Harrison Bader to get the big hit. Although you had a moment of, what's the opposite of a moment of zen? When it was first and second, no outs after the Volpe double and the Trevino infield single. And you realize Volpe didn't go to third, and then Gleyber Torres did not advance the runners or score anybody. Like, you definitely had a moment where you're like, well, that's that, right? Like, there's nothing to be done here. But Harrison Bader comes up huge. Giancarlo Stanton, who you said this was his worst game of his career, potentially, if not for this run-scoring single, comes up big, and then so does Michael King. I agree with you on Stanton. That was when he looks bad, he looks horrendous. That's the worst he's looked in a single game capsule until he got the second biggest hit of the game.
Yeah, and hopefully that's the start of something, but you have those strikeouts, and it's just like, dude, what are we doing? He has that swinging miss where it was kind of almost a spitting image of the way that he injured himself last year when he swung and messed up his Achilles because he was falling over, swinging in the other batter's box, stares at pitches in the strike zone. I don't know what's going on here. I will say, look, I'm happy with that. Luis Severino got a little bounce back performance. I'm happy Clarke Schmidt's recent run of form is getting him back on track. I particularly owe him an apology for all the trash talking I did earlier in the year.
Yes.
He's got his ERA down to 4.32 in 16 starts. That's good for someone who is a 5th starter, in my opinion.
He got the FIP into 380 at the end of last month, which we didn't even notice because I think we were all starting to come around on Clarke Schmidt. We'll give him his flowers later.
Yeah.
But all of the numbers are now looking like pretty good. I wish Fangraphs would let me do monthly lefty-righty breakdown. I can't get anything other than here's what the whole season's lefty-righty breakdown was, and it's still terrible. But I would love to know, like, hey, is he getting lefties out? I mean, he must be getting lefties out a little bit more efficiently than he was at some point. The OPS is down to 908 rather than 1.135 or whatever it is. But all positive signs for him so far.
Yeah, and the Rangers famously have a good mix of lefties and righties, and they have a lot of the Corey Seager's in that lineup. Nathaniel Lowe's in that lineup. Jonah Heim, who's having a great year, is in that lineup. All those guys are lefties. So yeah, props there. But again, there's just a lot of things to be sick of. I am sick of watching Wandy Peralta at this point. Michael King on Friday night, I was almost about to go on a tweet storm rage and say, we have massively overrated Michael King because he's had a combined what you would maybe consider one full good season as a relief pitcher, 70 games, 60 something games over the last two-ish years. And then when the Yankees need him most, disappears, just like all the other leading candidates. Another frustrating thing is, we'll talk Hal Steinbrenner's comments. We should talk about that in a little while because I think that was perhaps a little bit overblown. I think, look, there's reasons to be mad at everybody, but it is not a coincidence. It is not a coincidence whatsoever that Giancarlo Stanton, DJ LeMahieu, Anthony Rizzo, and Josh Donaldson are all enduring career worst slumps at the same time. This does not happen. This means something is wrong. This means someone is doing their job wrong. And you saw a lot more of it over this weekend. Still guys mostly not coming through. And it's particularly frustrating when they didn't exactly face a gauntlet of pitchers. Who was it? John Gray on Saturday. Eovaldi yesterday usually kicks our ass.
Dane Dunning.
Yeah, Dane Dunning on, come on, guys. Like, this is not, you did not just go through, 3 aces here. You went through 3 solid pitchers, I would say. And in theory, this Yankees lineup still has a handful of all-star players in it. And it still shouldn't be this bad. And it continually is. I don't understand why. I'm glad DJ LeMahieu got that 2-run double that saved the Yankees. But still not enough. He's dealing with a mechanical issue in his swing. I don't know how at this juncture in your career you're dealing with this big of a mechanical issue in your swing that is leading to you to produce the career worst numbers. But we talked about Dylan Lawson last week, and we only had one podcast last week, so we had we skipped over that loss to the Mariners, which was one of the most embarrassing games you'll ever watch in any league, on any stage, between the bats, between the defense, between the pitching. So you have this series win where it seemingly turns the tides, but in reality, it's just kind of taking the spotlight off of every other awful aspect of this team just for a short period of time until it inevitably happens again on maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, and then we're back in the same conversation.
There's just this deeply strange thing happening too, where I don't think, and I got some negative feedback for saying that of Cashman, Boone, and Lawson, Boone should be on the hot seat the least. I wrote that in an article this weekend. I just feel like if you don't know at this point how much Cashman controls, then you're being willfully ignorant. If you think there's something sloppy going on in the Yankees, the way they handle injuries and the way they handle playing time and the way everybody's regressing, if you think that's just all on Boone's shoulders and not on the people pulling the strings who tell him what to do, then I don't know what to tell you. There are also some physical and mental lapses that I like. As much as I want to blame Aaron Boone for Gleyber Torres getting caught 120 feet off the base on pop-outs to second and fly balls to Teoscar Hernandez.
Did it twice.
I would love to blame Aaron Boone, and I'm going to blame him maybe for not showing, you got to discipline Gleyber Torres in that scenario. So I'll blame Aaron Boone for that. But how many times can you tell Gleyber Torres, hey, don't start sprinting around the bases on pop-ups? Like, how many times can you tell him that? What more is there for Aaron Boone to say? That's on the player, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And so I'm tempted when I see the Yankees have just a slop fest like that game against Seattle, and it can always rear its ugly head where you're like, professional baseball cannot get worse than this. You are always tempted to blame Aaron Boone, and I'm not going to sit here and be like, Aaron Boone's not a problem, and there isn't somebody who could get this team playing in a more consistent clip. But when you see just the wheels fall off in a one-game sample, I'm hesitant to believe that Aaron Boone can really do something. And when everybody screams about Boone saying Josh Donaldson's going to play a lot, like Angelo in the comments here, that's just what Aaron Boone does. He just says stuff like that. He pumps up his guys. I didn't glean any information from that. I think it's way more important that Donaldson didn't play during this 3-game series than it is that Aaron Boone said he's going to play a lot. He's important. Because Brian Cashman just said he needs a big, long runway. And then they were like 2 days later, like, your runway's cut off. Sorry, buddy. So I don't really, that's just word salad to me. But you're right. There are games just when you're feeling good. I can't call this a season-changing series win over Texas. I could just call it it's a season-saving series win in the fact that the season literally could have gone off the rails. They could have fallen out of playoff contention and fallen closer to 500 if they hadn't done it. It has sustained the season for now. But every couple of games, you're feeling good about yourself after those 2 wins over Seattle. You're like, man, they could have really taken their foot off the gas pedal here. Garrett Cole dominates them. Johnny Brito dominates them, Volpe homers, and you're like, I mean, I think we're going to beat Brian Wu with Domingo Germán tomorrow. And then Germán puts up the worst start you've ever seen from him, worse than the Red Sox game. Brian Wu takes a no-hitter into the sixth, and guys dropping balls, choppers, pop-ups, getting caught off. Just there, absolutely nothing goes right. The Mariners hit, I believe, 35 home runs in that game. Like, every couple of days, there's the worst game you've ever seen waiting to rear its ugly head. And I don't think I have like a grand sweeping conclusion. I think this team's just like not that good. So like when I see some other fan bases are very like their team centered, where they're like, I don't get it. Why can't we beat? I mean, we were joking about this, Red Sox fans. Why can't we beat bad teams? It's like, you guys are just kind of bad too. Like sometimes fan bases get caught up in like, why can't we beat bad teams? We're so inconsistent. It's like the Red Sox are kind of like a 500 team. Like those teams play inconsistent baseball. And so when I'm tempted to be like, why are the Yankees putting up this sloppy game every couple of days? It's like, maybe they're just like kind of a sloppy, not that good team. Maybe they're just like okay. And that's what happens to teams that are just okay every couple of days.
Yeah, I would agree with you on Boone, because you look back to 2018 and 2019 and, you know, we always argue, does Aaron Boone make your team better? No. Does he make your team worse? Probably not. There's not, you know, like, he's every manager makes mistakes. Every manager has their bullpen gaffes. Every manager, you know, has favoritism over certain guys because of contract situations or what the GM is saying, or, you know, the messaging is particularly bad, which I think is mainly the case with Aaron Boone. He didn't really have a whole lot of disciplinary issues to go through in 2018 and 2019 when they're winning 100 and 103 games.
And then, during a playoff game, like, is he going to get outmanaged by a genius manager? Maybe, but does Brian Cashman set him up for success there? Like, how much does he get to dig during a season? So that when it gets to nut cutting time, how much experience does he have? Not much.
Yeah, and it's, you know, that's the toughest thing to assess. The one thing I will just, you know, say that I think brings validity to the Boone conversation is that he does not discipline anybody. This is the first time we've seen legitimate discipline with Josh Donaldson, and I don't even think it's discipline. It's just reached a boiling point. Josh Donaldson cannot hit the ball, and then you have Boone going up to the podium, you know, talking about how good his defense is, and then he makes that error at Fenway that extends the inning and causes the wheels to fall off, and then he looks like a complete fool in that game against the Mariners when he made 2 errors on 1 play. I mean, partially you could put that on Domingo Germán, but he also threw it 700 miles an hour at Domingo Germán's head when he's running the third base. So, like, the third baseman probably needs to do better than that. It's reached a point where Donaldson, it's reaching a Hicks point where Boone is left saying, well, am I going to trot this guy out just to continually get booed regardless of what he's doing? So him benching Donaldson, I think, has been more of a default than it actually is him acting instinctually as a manager, saying, you know what, I'm sick of this. Because you're right, at this point, Gleyber Torres should have been benched 4, 5, 6 times this season based on defensive lapses, based on these base running lapses now that have happened twice in the same week where he just decides to take off. And that's really where my issue lies with Boone. It seems like he's a little bit too much of a player's manager, but then you go back and you think, okay, well, is the front office saying, hey, you can't bench Gleyber today? Sorry. Actually, you can't bench DJ today. Sorry. You can't bench Donaldson today. Figure it out. So, and then what recourse does Boone have? He goes to the media, they ask him questions, and he's like, you know, we're turning the page. These guys are grinding. Here it is. You know, everything's going to be okay, because he has no choice but to say that. So, you know, the problems with these always start from the top. And I guess if we want to start from the top, we could dive into Hal for a minute, and I think that'll take us nicely through where we got to get to here.
Feels good. Feels good to me. Go for it.
I was not that mad when Hal talked last week. Everyone freaked out because he said he wasn't sure why fans were this enraged. He spoke on June 21st. The Yankees were 7 games above 500. And you have to admit at some point, the team is actually performing decently for all of the issues they've dealt with this year.
Probably overperforming. Think of how many people you hate. Think of how many people we didn't draft last week in the keep 'em draft. These players aren't very good, and they are in the thick of it.
Yeah, so in my opinion, and I could be wrong, and feel free to tell me that I'm wrong, Hal Steinbrenner was looking at this point in time. We are 40-43. We don't have Aaron Judge. We're missing 3/5 of the starting rotation. The bullpen's a revolving door, of injuries, and we're still managing to replicate production there. Our outfield is a disaster, and we have the 7th best record in baseball. Like, I understand why fans might be frustrated at, maybe at times the lackluster play, or maybe the slumping from the veterans who were supposed to be coming up big when Aaron Judge is out. But like, overall, we're in a good spot. People were mad because they're like, well, Hal, you're not looking at the big picture. Well, he wasn't really asked about the big picture. He was asked about why fans are mad on June 21st. He's not going to say, oh, well, I understand why fans are mad. Brian Cashman kind of constructed this roster a little bit wobbly. I would say Aaron Boone's not the most confident manager in the world, especially when you're looking at him from a fan perspective. We've made a lot of bad money decisions over the last couple of years that have seemingly hamstrung us and left us to create these bit of financial restrictions that have kept us from maybe getting the players that you may have wanted. He's not thinking like that. If he was asked that question, I think if he said, I don't know why fans are mad, then that would have given us a bit of a reason to actually be pissed off. Looking at the grand scheme of things, where the Yankees are at this point, where they are hopefully going to get when they're fully healthy, that's kind of the lens that he was looking through, which I can't blame him for, because he was asked a question point blank and he answered the question point blank. He also said he sympathized with people being upset because the players need to hit, the players need to perform, and some of them are not meeting expectations, and he fully acknowledged that. I am just kind of done with just being outraged at every turn. Doesn't matter who says what, Yankee fans will be mad. And I understand why that has slowly become the case, because you have the medical staff lying, or you have the medical staff not doing their job, and then Aaron Boone is forced to lie, and then Brian Cashman is popping up every so often to talk to the media with the most uninspiring quotes ever. So I do understand, but I think when you have a moment like that, when the owner, who's not privy to every personnel, because Hal Steinbrenner is not privy to every personnel decision. No owner is sitting there in the front office asking the GM what they're going to do next. Maybe a handful. Hal Steinbrenner is certainly not doing that. So that's more of a question, I think, for the GM to field. Hey, the fans are upset. Can you maybe guess why? Hal Steinbrenner is not going to look back and be like, oh, well, a couple of the moves Cashman made, I can understand why, people aren't happy with. I don't think he's that in the know, and he doesn't have that in-depth knowledge of the team. And if you think that that's bad ownership, then I wouldn't necessarily disagree with you, but owners have a lot of other things to do than focus on the day-to-day. That's why they hire people to do this. So I think the fact that the conversation eventually turned into, hey, Hal, here's why we're mad on June 21st. It's because the roster was constructed poorly. We're dealing with more and more injuries as a result of, I don't know what. We've acquired older players, and that has put us in this precarious position. We continually have the worst medical staff. We continually don't handle the injuries properly as an organization. The messaging from the manager to the media is bad. The messaging from the GM to the media is bad. So that's why we're angry. Maybe he got that messaging, and hopefully he's ready for his next presser where there are relative questions asked about that. But yeah, I wasn't mad at the face value answer. The question was the question. He answered the question. I didn't think it was anything crazy. Everyone just took that little snippet and ran with it, which I'm done with. I'm not defending Hal Steinbrenner. He's infuriating in an entirely different way, but I think we just have to get a grasp of the situation.
Yeah, it's tough because the only stuff I really want to hear is still fan service stuff that makes me a sheep. It'd be nice to hear him say we are dedicated to a pursuit of a championship here. So I'm not upset with what I'm seeing so far, but I understand why fans would be angry.
Yeah.
And I invite you to stay the course. If I'm managing Hal Steinbrenner's PR, I'm just saying hey, maybe throw in some boilerplate stuff there about how, you don't think this team is rounding into form yet, and your goal is still to be a winner. And at the end of the year, we'll evaluate how everybody did in that respect. The stuff that made me matter was when he was unless we miss the playoffs, Cashman's safe, Boone's safe. And it's of course that's true, but it'd be great if it wasn't true. It'd be great if we didn't just treat every playoff opportunity like a big old win, and they're gonna We know how they operate at the trade deadline. Oh, we're getting all these injured guys back. And we know how they operate in the postseason press conference. We had a tough year offensively, but we missed Aaron Judge, for a large chunk of that. And that's just, that's not enough. That's not an excuse. We've talked about this before. Judge is so important. He can't be Damian Lillard, right? Obviously the team is better with Aaron Judge, but it can't be like, you lost your point guard, so now you're a lottery team. Like there need to be other people in this offense who hit too. It can't all just be like, oof, thank God Aaron Judge hit 2 3-run homers. We won 6-5. Like there needs to be some life here. So I would have preferred just a little bit of fan service, some PR stuff saying, I think there's a lot of runway left, and I feel good about the progress we still have left to make. But yes, I understand why fans are upset. It's supposed to be a championship caliber outfit, and it's not right now. And I'll, address it as such. But the bottom line is we are in a better position than we could be. This team could be well under 500. This team could be the Mets. Instead, they are in the wild card race. So nobody spent more than Steve Cohen. Hal Steinbrenner spent a good deal, could have been spent more efficiently. The Mets spent so much money to be so average. They tied $80 million up in 2 starting pitchers who are both pressing 40, and they're just not interested. There's not a lot going on there. So could certainly be worse for the New York Yankees. But that said, Aaron Judge, how hurt is this man? Apparently very. My number one issue with the Yankees is always going to be the way they handle injuries. They handle injuries as if they think their fans are children. And maybe they're right, because based on the way that social media behaves, and every lineup that comes out is, all right, now DFA Stanton. Okay, now DFA DJ. Like, you guys were just begging to extend DJ 2 years ago. Do you have any idea what you want, or you just want to, every time you get poked in the arm, are you going to cry like you just touched a hot stove? I don't know. So maybe the Yankees guard their injury updates the way that they do, because they know that their fans really are going to react like spoiled toddlers every time they're given a piece of information. But the way they do this is embarrassing. It's infantilizing. I spend a whole Sunday 3 weeks ago trying to learn if Aaron Judge broke his toe, trying to figure out, well, okay, if he broke it and it's just a fracture, then it'll heal when it heals. Maybe he'll be back in 3 or 4 weeks. But if it's the weird sesamoid fracture that DJ had, he might need surgery, might be horrible. I'm girding myself for all that information. And then they're like, not a fracture, actually, just a sprain, kind of a weird injury, could be turf toe, but, might be back in 3 weeks, might be back in 4. And I'm like, okay, sprain sounds better than fracture. Good. Glad. We got a timetable. But then we don't. They don't want to give him a timetable. Okay, fine. They give him another injection. We learn weeks later that there's a second ligament that's injured. And that's the first lie. Lie number 1, not just 1 sprain, but it's 2. And they say he's feeling better. He's got better range of motion. The swelling is finally subsiding. And we're like, okay, great. You wrote about this as a positive injury update.
I was happy.
Like 2 days ago. And yet on Saturday, Aaron Judge is like, I don't really want to give a timetable because, it's not an ACL. It's not a quad. It's a weird injury. I tore a ligament in my toe. We're going to have to get to the bottom of this. And everyone's like, tore a what in your what? You what? A ligament in your toe? Are you fucking kidding me? Like that just wasn't even a part of it. And I know that a sprain is a small tear, etc. But Aaron Judge goes to the school of injury. He goes to the Derek Jeter school of managing the media. He doesn't say I have a tear in my toe ligament unless it's like a fairly serious tear. He won't do a timeline. Boone won't even guarantee he'll be back this year. That's how much of a non-timeline they don't want to put on it. I kind of feel like he's probably coming back in August, maybe even mid-August. But it's not even the injury so much as it is the lies. It's just constantly inaccurate statements about what is going wrong. And I'll be pleasantly surprised if he comes back in early August or at the end of July or what have you. Everybody should be thinking long-term issue at this point because we're on year 2 of DJ LeMahieu with his toe problem. That was a fracture. He's now got mechanical issues he has to sort out in the middle of the season. So I'm not shocked if I don't see Judge back to normal until next year. And even then, I'm still worried about it. I just wish I would have been told that 3 weeks ago when I was told, oh, it's not a fracture. Oh, why was I so worried all day? It's just a sprain. Okay, well, it's actually 2 and it's actually a tear. So great to find out 3 weeks afterward.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know of any injuries that slowly progress into getting worse when you're not doing anything on the injury. So like that's how you know the Yankees are lying. You don't discover a second sprain unless you didn't do conclusive testing the first time around. You don't discover a tear 3 weeks later unless you didn't do the proper testing the first time around. So, and then the fact that Aaron Judge is delivering this news to the media. Brian Cashman's ass should be in front of the media detailing every single thing about this process, about what was missed, about who made what mistake, about what the timetable is. Like, this is not Aaron Judge's responsibility. He shouldn't be facing the media I don't know why. Maybe it's his choice. Maybe he's being a nice guy. I don't know, but he shouldn't be answering questions about his injury this often. He's the one who's delivered all of the bad news so far. And that's, maybe that's part of the PR plan. So the outrage isn't necessarily directly on management or whatever it is. And because no one's going to get mad at Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge is trying to get better. Aaron Judge made a game-saving catch and suffered this injury that was never supposed to happen. Which is funny because there was an old highlight that popped up on Twitter today of Tony Gwynn hitting an inside the park home run at Dodger Stadium in like 1997. Like, it's the anniversary of that. Look at the left field wall. It is literally all concrete. It is concrete like this high. So I don't know what people like. I don't know how that was the reality for people back then, but absolutely insane. Either way, embarrassing. That I don't know another word for this and how we have to keep being fed this information and how the information is fed to adult journalists who are responsible for reporting the information to other people who rely on them for information so they can read and educate themselves. But the Yankees are doing a disservice to everybody, including themselves with this. They're making themselves look bad and they're making people more stupid. So please, let's stop doing this at some point. Maybe this year, maybe this will be the time they finally learn.
Yeah, the left field wall at Dodger Stadium is just Roadrunner, like a painted door on a cement block. I mean, I also love the Twitter people who every time somebody reports on, like, we don't have a timetable for Judge, the Yankees still being skittish, the replies that are like, did you guys follow up at all, though? Yeah, they probably forgot. They probably didn't press anybody. Like, they probably were like, do you have a timetable for Judge? And Boone was like, I don't know, we might. And then the reporters were like, good enough for me. I'll put that you don't. Like, I think they're doing their jobs. I think it's probably the Yankees that are spinning this. And if you want to spin things in your favor, recommend you join Caesars. Get your first bet on Caesars up to $1,250. That's $1,250 on any sport if you're a new customer. You don't want to miss it. All you have to do is use our code YGYFULL at sign up. If you sign up with our code YGYFULL, FULL, right there on the bottom of the screen if you're watching along with us, and we thank you if you are. You will not only have your first bet insured, but you will also be directly supporting the podcast. So if you haven't signed up for Caesars Sportsbook, join with our code YGYFULL and drop your first bet. This offer is only available for new customers who are 21 plus and physically present in legal gambling states. Please remember to always gamble responsibly. Check the episode description for full terms of the offer. Josh Donaldson time.
Oh,
I guess.
More embarrassing stuff.
More embarrassing stuff. Here's some more a heaping pile of bullshit if you want to buy it. Aaron Boone had his media availability delayed yesterday after not starting Donaldson Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. He was a half
good
hour
timing,
late.
Great timing.
Yeah, well, he forgot to do it, and then he's like, I should probably meet with Josh Donaldson. He's a half hour late. Donaldson was caught running into Boone's office, was like, can't talk now, guys. Got to talk to the manager about something. Everyone's like, is he getting DFA'd? What's going on here? And then Boone just emerged, was like, sorry about that. I just wanted to talk to Josh about some stuff, get some stuff sorted out. He's going to be a major player for us as the year goes on. Donaldson, after the game, did not want to talk about it. Clearly didn't get DFA'd in the middle of the season. It's its own debate whether or not they actually want to DFA a second Yankee who's owed $20+ million. They already did it with Aaron Hicks. He is already dominating on the Baltimore Orioles. Josh Donaldson looked way worse than Aaron Hicks ever did, but there's still a chance of a bounce back. The exit velocities look good. So you can have the DFA debate. We can have the DFA debate. I'm actually not in favor of the DFA, but Donaldson didn't want to talk about that meeting. I'm going to go ahead and guarantee it wasn't just about personal stories, as Josh Donaldson said it was. I'm also going to guarantee it wasn't about Aaron Boone saying, we got to stay the course and we love you and you're great. Something was going on there. Maybe Donaldson's agents called it. Maybe Boone called it. Donaldson not in the dugout during the game yesterday per Chris Kirscher, which is a whole other level of embarrassing, but indicates that he wasn't exactly happy with the message relayed. I am team Donaldson on the bench. I actually don't want to get rid of him and eat more dead money. And I understand that's kind of ridiculous, but the Yankees put Josh Donaldson on this team. They could take him off of it, but they're going to have to give him to somebody else in the process. I would much rather he sit on the bench this year and be rarely used to be buried. I don't want to cut another guy if I have to pay him anyway. I understand the counter. That said, I don't buy for 1 second Aaron Boone saying he's extremely important and crucial to this team. We're going to get him a lot of run. We're not going to get him that much run. I don't think he's going to be playing every day. But here's the thing. If you are going to keep him, you are going to start him, don't bat him fifth. My God, just stop doing that.
Stop. Batted third at one point. Not batted second at one point. He has 8 hits in 71 plate appearances. That is not, nobody is that bad. Nobody has been that bad. What?
Well, the Pirates, the only comparable stat is, I got to pull it up because the Pirates have like a 4-man cluster who is combined are like 1 for their last 110. Okay. I've never seen anything like that in my life. But other than that, there's nobody like Josh Donaldson. Yeah. Here we go. Austin Hedges on June 14th, homered in the top of the 4th inning, and Rodolfo Castro singled in the 6th inning. That's June 14th. It's now June 26th. Since then, including yesterday's game, G1 Bay 0 for 30, Jack Suwinski 0 for 29, Castro 1 for 25, Hedges 0 for 17, 1 for 101. 4 guys on the Pirates. That's basically the Josh Donaldson train at this moment.
But I think that's the point. I'm saying there's nothing like there's nothing comparable to a player who is supposed to be of Donaldson's caliber doing this. Yeah. 4 bad Pirates players doing this, no one would bat an eye. I bet most people hadn't even known that stat because nobody gives a shit because that's kind of what's expected in Pittsburgh. If you have this type of futility in New York, it is magnified in every manner possible. And then you run into situations like this where you're, for some reason, not talking to Josh Donaldson about his spot in the lineup the night before, and you're going to do it pressed up against your presser in the morning before a series finale against the second best team in the American League, the best team in the American League, second best team. Rays are the best. Yeah. And that, I mean, that's the thing too. Like, you're putting your team in a bad position because now all they're hearing is this nonsense. You're putting the fans off because all they're doing is, looking at social media when they're at the game or before they're watching the game, and all they're seeing is this. At one point, you thought Donaldson was getting DFA'd because of Boone being late to the presser. And then again, you have the situation where it's kind of impossible. What is Boone going to say to the media? Yeah, I talked to Josh. We told him he's going to be a part-time player. He said he didn't want to do that. So now we have to consider DFAing him. So what do you guys think we should do? Do you think he should take his role as a bench player, or should we just cut him loose? I'm with you. I don't want to DFA another guy because it's embarrassing, especially a high money guy like this. If you have to do it once per year, that's already bad. If you have to do that multiple times in a year, that means you failed horribly. I thought, if anything, they probably should have just waited out the Hicks situation to see which one of these two was going to be more insufferable for the remainder of this season, because in my opinion, Donaldson was just as bad as Hicks was last year. The only difference was that Hicks clearly didn't want to be here. So I think it maybe made the decision a little bit easier. On the other hand, though, I don't care if he's DFA because he doesn't make this team better. Dig up the pods from earlier in the season in May when this team was dominating. You forgot Josh Donaldson existed. You didn't even remember that he was on the IL. And then a news update popped up that he cut his hand on an easy bake oven. And you were like, oh yeah, Josh Donaldson was here. When's he coming back? Hopefully not coming back at all. And then he comes back, and now it's all negative headlines surrounding this team. And that's why they can't afford to start him. And that's why I think the conversation was, look, you're bench for this series. You had an opportunity to not absolutely be as bad as you could possibly be on Thursday night. And that's exactly what you were. And now we have a 3-game homestand. The house is going to be packed with near sold out crowds. and you are probably going to get booed relentlessly every time you do something incorrect or every time you just merely walk out to go to the step up to the plate. And we don't want that. So maybe he's a road player at this point. Maybe that's the direction it trends in. Maybe he's just a guy on the bench who can be a somewhat reliable defender. But yeah, like pinch hitting him for Billy McKinney on Friday. If you want to crucify, yeah, guess what? Sorry, guys. We said Boone actually didn't really make that big of a difference. But doing that is a negative difference. Billy McKinney's the literal hottest hitter on the team, and you took him out of the game for a guy who cannot hit 90-mile-an-hour middle fastballs. But yeah, it's the same thing here. It's poor play from a bad acquisition, inability to admit that acquisition was bad, then playing these media games and putting your team in a bad position, pressing yourself up against deadlines that don't matter. You don't need to have a meeting with Josh Donaldson before the game starts. You say, hey, Josh, you're benched. If you want to talk about it, we'll talk about it at 5 p.m. when the game's over. Cool? Great. But yeah, to do that right before the series finale, to then put Donaldson in an uncomfortable position because he had to dodge the media at one point. He wasn't present in the dugout reportedly towards the end of the game when the Yankees came back and won that. And then you just continually have all these vibes completely thrown off, and the clubhouse is, not in the right spot. And you don't want to do that heading into a stretch where thankfully the Yankees are facing a lot of not good teams over the last month. I don't know if you guys looked at the schedule, but like, if you want to be without Aaron Judge, if you want to have all these veteran players slumping, this is like, if you want to call this ever a time to have that happen, this might be the best time for it to happen. And now you have ownership coming out, Hal Steinbrenner making one comment that was viewed unfavorably. People are now pissed off. You have this Donaldson incident. Now more people are pissed off. How much more can you pile on when you're trying to just string something together? You have a very favorable schedule over the next month. You don't want anything else working against you in that favor, and that's what, once again, they have done.
We might be Red Sox fans over the next couple weeks, though. I don't understand. Why can't the Yankees beat these bad teams? That's because they're not that good. But we'll see. We shall see. Going to Oakland this week. Yeah, Josh Donaldson, not good. Looked great on the road, Dodger Stadium. His first game back. Maybe he is a road player. Maybe he is a Dodger Stadium player. Maybe they should have played him in right field at Dodger Stadium so he could test out that concrete himself. That would have solved a lot of problems. We'll see what happens with Donaldson over the next couple weeks and how many more times he ends up in Aaron Boone's office. But Billy McKinney, I do want to give props to. Pinch hitting Josh Donaldson for Billy McKinney was insane. Dumbest thing Boone's done this year. Whoever told him to do that should be ashamed of themselves. Aaron Hicks versus Billy McKinney. I think this is just people aren't talking enough about. I don't think this is a homer podcast. Somebody emailed me recently and said I was being a homer and something. I hate this team all the time. We're constantly talking about how much we hate them. I don't think it's possible to be a homer at this point, but an undeniable fact, the Yankees are getting shit for Aaron Hicks' resurgence with the Baltimore Orioles. And I know why, because he was unplayable here and is now hitting .292 with 4 homers, 11 ribs, 941 OPS in Baltimore. Numbers that are declining a little bit after he was completely unplayable in New York this year. 48 OPS plus with the Yankees, 161 with the Orioles. I know why you're laughing at us. It's not a mystery. I don't need to dive deep. Numbers in New York, bad. Numbers in Baltimore, good. Baltimore ahead of the Yankees in the playoff race. I get it. It's all right there. But Billy McKinney is not with the Yankees if they don't DFA Aaron Hicks.
Mm-hmm.
Billy McKinney might have found his way to the Yankees this week after Willie Calhoun went down. Maybe. But Oswaldo Cabrera would probably just still be here struggling. I don't know if they would have pulled the plug there. And Oswald Peraza, everybody wants to see him. He's currently hurt. He's currently managing some sort of injury. So he probably wouldn't be here this week either. Billy McKinney is here because the Yankees DFA'd Aaron Hicks. Aaron Hicks was a malcontent while he was here. He didn't want to be here. He was not giving full effort. You cannot convince me he was giving full effort. He stared at a fair ball last year and let it roll around in the corner. He was not a left fielder. Now he's a center fielder. Something changed. It was partially the Orioles coaches making a hitting adjustment to his swing. It was partially him leaving New York where everybody hated him and he didn't want to be. Billy McKinney wants to be here. In 53 at-bats, he's been worth .8 B-WAR. 4 homers, 302 average, 157 OPS plus, which is, again, right up there with Hicks since joining the Orioles. Billy McKinney is objectively not here without Hicks's DFA. He is objectively the one shining light guiding the Yankees through this dark tunnel without Aaron Judge. And the most embarrassing part of the whole thing, of course, is that Stanton and DJ and Rizzo and Donaldson have all been awful, and Billy McKinney and Bowers and Willie Calhoun, when he was here, have all been impressive. So if the Stars were just playing like stars, or even 80% like stars, the Yankees would be good without Aaron Judge, instead of being 2-10 when the opposition scores 3 or more runs without Aaron Judge. The second win was yesterday. Before that, they were 1-10. So just a little props to the Yankees for uncovering their best story of the month and of the year after getting rid of Aaron Hicks. 2 events that would not have happened out of sequence. If Hicks were still here, McKinney would not be. So laugh all you want about him being on the Orioles, but the Yankees managed to replicate his production internally, and Hicks would not be doing this here.
Correct. So yeah, I think that's probably, you could be less mad about Hicks dominating with the Orioles because we gave a bad player away who's always going to perform better somewhere else. We all knew that was going to happen. We said it a million times. We said with Gary Sanchez,
couldn't have performed worse.
No, there was no way. He was beneath rock bottom here. We said it with Gary Sanchez 2 years ago. Just non-tender him. Doesn't matter if he kicks ass somewhere else. He's not going to do it here. Billy McKinney has double the amount of hits Josh Donaldson has in 16 fewer plate appearances. He has 5 fewer hits than Giancarlo Stanton in nearly half the games played. And I know Anthony Rizzo has woken up a bit over the course of the last 6 games. But since Billy McKinney's been with the Yankees, he's completely lapped Anthony Rizzo in just almost every category. So, yeah, there are props to be delivered for Billy McKinney. I don't like looking at these numbers and saying all of that, because just imagine if one of those guys, and I don't even know the DJ LeMahieu numbers at this point. I can't even look at them anymore. But if
he's got
one
a
of those
too, I think, but yeah, that's it.
If one of those guys was doing half the work McKinney was doing, or even like 70% of it, like, we'd be in a really good spot right now. Unfortunately, we're not. So yeah. And then you have a guy like Bader, who I know has taken a little bit of time to get right since coming off the IL, but he continually figures out ways to get big hits, and nobody else really does on a consistent basis. Harrison Bader is kind of always finding himself in the right spots, or, you know, just the guy who kind of understands the assignment, wants to be here, doesn't let the moment get bigger than him, which is more the mentality that New York requires, which is something that I don't know the top of this organization realizes. But that'll be a conversation for another time when Hal Steinbrenner hits the airwaves and says something you don't like. So yeah, we ended on a positive note. I like that. Billy McKinney, props, buddy.
I'm just still confused too by all the people who, how can you watch Harrison Bader this weekend and still do the, like, can't extend him though, too hurt? I feel like everybody's valuation of him is way off, because they're just used to, when the Yankees extend people, they're used to the Yankees spending like $100 billion for 8 years. Like, extending Harrison Bader is going to be like 12 or 13 million a year for like 4 years. Like, that's not going to, because guess what? Everybody else knows that he also doesn't stay healthy all the time. So you're tying up half of Josh Donaldson's money on a better player who's younger, who provides you something you don't have otherwise, and who loves being here. I don't even think it's really a debate. If they just let him walk, you're going to look at the money and be like, oh, that's not really even worth being concerned about. Oh, oops. Sorry. I wasted time being nervous about stuff when I could have just been excited. Like, and if I'm wrong, I'll own that one. But that one is like a no risk extension to me.
Yeah, small money for somebody who, even if he's not there most of the time, it's cheap, and he's an all-around baseball player who rises to the occasion. So yeah, it's not really comparable to the other extensions or even the other trade acquisitions the Yankees have made. This would be a smart one. And at worst, Harrison Bader, what, you extend him for whatever? What would it be? We discussed maybe like $12 million a year, if that.
Yeah, I saw somebody throwing around 4 for 48 yesterday and saying that, like, a fan of another team, and saying like, yeah, that'd be worth it. Like, that's how I feel. Like,
Hicks average 10. Like, you'll take anything in that range for not Aaron Hicks, and Harrison Bader is 10 times the player Aaron Hicks is, in my opinion. I think in most people's opinions, at least in New York, he is. So you'd pay that type of money for somebody who maybe he's available for 120 games a year, but when you're getting him for those 120 games, it's big time performances, it's energizing the bench, it's reinvigorating the clubhouse. So none of these decisions are going to be perfect, especially when you're dealing with the Yankees, because they constantly, they're trading off one thing for another, whether it's player performance because of a money issue, or whether it's because they spent too much here and they have to get lower acquisition costs over there. There's always some sort of give and take. But for someone like Bader, I don't know why anyone would even be complaining about him staying here long term, especially when there's no outfield.
No. And you miss him when you don't have him. Like, in the same way, imagine if they had not signed Aaron Judge this offseason, and the goal was like, yeah, we're just going to enter next season with different guys. And then it would look like this. It would be Billy McKinney and Jake Bowers and Harrison Bader. And the whole world would be like, 9 years of this. 9 years of this. Now Harrison Bader should be a Yankee for a while. I think that's easy. And also, you're not allowed to be wrong. Like, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I actually thought the Aaron Hicks extension was I wasn't like on my rooftop popping off fireworks, but when the Yankees extended Aaron Hicks, I was like, fine, that'll be fine. And then it wasn't. And then now I'm allowed to be like, all right, it was bad. It was really bad. 7 years is too many years. He tore his wrist sheath. I didn't know that was going to happen. He decided he didn't want to play in New York anymore. I didn't know that was going to happen. Right? And I wasn't like, I didn't have a sign on my door that said Aaron Hicks extension, like, please, I don't know, pay me, drop candy and bucket, trick or treat for Aaron Hicks extension. But I thought it was okay, and it wasn't. So sue me. It is what it is. Also, Clarke Schmidt. Just props to Clarke Schmidt. Again, the lefty numbers, the overall numbers, the whip is still over 1.4. So it's not like we're all the way there yet, but the FIP is starting to line up with the real stuff. 1.97 ERA in his last 6 starts. That includes the Red Sox a couple times. That includes the hard-hitting Texas Rangers. Very good. Unfortunately, the Yankees, a grand total of 0 wins in those last 6 starts. He's the first pitcher per Katie Sharp in Yankees history to have a 6-start span, minimum of 20 innings pitched, excluding openers, with a sub-2 ERA where the team lost all 6 games. And Katie Sharp does great work, and I'm glad that she clarified that. I don't think I needed Katie Sharp in this instance to tell me that had never happened before with the Yankees, considering it's impossible for that to happen. But Clarke Schmidt, unfortunately, his extremely effective streak, again, an ERA under 2 in his last 6, and the FIP being lowered to just above 4, has coincided with the offense being beyond putrid, and he can't even get the lucky break. The Luis Severino 1-0 game. He can't get one of those. Can't win one of those guys. So shout out to Clarke for continuing to turn the corner. We said it was time to pull the plug in the experiment. I thought it was. Again, can't be wrong. I thought I did not want to see any more Clarke Schmidt after April with the 6.43 ERA and the 6.80 ERA and the 5.43 FIP. But he's proved us wrong. He is figuring it out to a certain extent. And I think the cutter that was supposed to save him ruined his other pitch grips. And the more he is now de-emphasizing that cutter, the better he has looked. So is he a starter long term? I don't know how you move him back to the bullpen after this. They're going to have to do something.
Well, don't you worry, because not everybody's going to be healthy.
Yeah, exactly. I'm enjoying Carlos Rodon's time in the minor leagues. I'm enjoying it quite a bit.
Come on, Carlos.
But I'm not counting my chickens before they hatch. And Nestor Cortez still barely throwing. So it's going to be a while before we see him too. And when he gets back, I mean, we saw Severino last year, or the Yankees were just like, here's a calendar. You're not coming back. Nestor Cortez threw a ton of innings last year. You really think the Yankees aren't going to do that with him too? Hey, Nestor, why don't you come into this office? We scheduled some availability between you and Aaron Boone for 3 minutes before Aaron Boone's supposed to do a public press conference so that he can explain a calendar to you. This should take only an hour or so. I see that coming in his future.
It'd be a great way to handle it, and it'd be consistent at the very least. But yep, I like the way Clarke is trending. It's a good story. It's like you said, 6.84 ERA heading into May, 4.32 now. He's lowered everything significantly. What it is the de-emphasized cutter? I haven't done any research. That's what it's been.
I mean, I don't know for sure, but earlier in the season when he finally abandoned it, things did start trending up a little bit. Again, the lefty, I would love to break down the lefty stuff month by month, but it's still overall pretty bad on the whole. But we love it. We love success.
Yeah. What a weird schedule. I'm looking at the schedule now
weird.
too. What is this? At Oakland, at St. Louis, back home against Baltimore, home against the Cubs, and then back on the West Coast after the All-Star break?
Yeah, 3 short West Coast trips this year, but one of them is Oakland to St. Louis, which is not a West Coast trip. No. I don't know how Oakland showed up here at all.
No, I don't know, but yep. You get 3 games against the A's, which, I mean, please. And then the Cardinals are the most disappointing team in baseball. And you got Severino and Cole right now lined up for those 2 games in St. Louis. And then you have an opportunity to gain some ground in the division with a 4-game set against Baltimore. No off day in between. This is when the Yankees are back to playing on Monday, folks, on Monday, July 3rd. So be ready for it. But yeah, you have Herman, Schmidt, Severino, and Cole for that series. Could be worse. Like we said, it could be the Mets.
Herman might not be around at that point.
Yeah.
Yankees are just bleeding people dry at this point. Herman was their best pitcher last month, and this month he looks like a JV guy. And they're going to find something wrong with that fella at some point, you'd have to think. But hopefully Carlos Rodon is back. Theoretically, it seems like he might be for that Baltimore Orioles home series. He pitched 4 more great innings at AA over the weekend. Would love to see him. Would love to see Ian Hamilton, who got on the plane heading west yesterday, but has not been activated because the Yankees don't play Mondays. Things are trending in a positive direction. I don't know. But again, nice to take a series from the Texas Rangers. Nice to see Clarke Schmidt rounding in form. Nice to see Billy McKinney. And nice to see the Yankees 8 games over 500 when they have no business being there. That is it for this edition of the podcast. We will be right back at you on Thursday, right back to 2 shows per week. No more of that 1 show per week BS. Just kidding. Next week is July 4th holiday. We're probably gonna have to mess around with like 1 show next week. We'll do what we can. Until then, you can find us on all podcast platforms: Apple, Spotify, Google, the good ones, the bad ones. We're on the bad ones too. But we hope you rate and review the podcast, like and subscribe to the feed on YouTube. Getting bigger every day. I guess. I don't know. Growing like a weed. Thomas Carinante. I'm Adam Weinrib. I don't know why I just introduced myself to you. Again, I'm jet lagged, folks. That's my name. And Thomas knows it. You guys hopefully know it too. You can find me on Twitter at Adam Weinrib and Thomas Carinante. You're here as well. Where can the people find you?
I'm at Tommy's_takes. We are both at the official Yanks Go Yard Twitter account. It's at Yanks Go Yard FS. Let's hear it from you. We want it. We want more. Head on over to yanksgoyard.com. We got all the content there for you. A lot of good stuff. A lot of you guys reading. We're having a good time with the Donaldson things, looking ahead towards the trade deadline, parsing through some rumors that are popping up here and there. So we're going to see what happens, but we're going to have all the info for you ready and armed, published right when it comes out. So please keep on commenting, keep on engaging. We're having a great time with you guys. And until then, we'll talk to you again on Thursday with hopefully some good news after this athletic series. That's a day game on Thursday, right? 3:30.
Yeah, 3:30 will be live right around then. Hopefully we're talking about some victories in the preceding games. That'd be nice. Futures game rosters get announced tonight. Will Jason Dominguez make his 3rd straight because he's box office, or are the Yankees going to be like, well, that's kind of weird. Let's maybe not relegate him to the futures game every year. We love to get him into the real All-Star game. I don't know who makes it from the Yankee system. Probably Spencer Jones, you'd think. Maybe a little Trey Sweeney action. I don't know. Maybe Juan Carrella has been dominating. I don't know. Stay tuned. We'll talk about it on Thursday. Bye for now, everybody.